Patch notes, another week and we got another patch notes. So let's see what we got this week in terms of improvements and basically the same story. Let's see what changed and what didn't. So I'm going to get into this right away and start with the events and system tab. The first event of this week is called the Golden Puppy event, and this one is basically a combination of the previous Golden Dagger, Golden Backpack and the Golden Fish event. So now if you kill monsters you gather or you fish, you're going to get this Golden Puppy statue, which is also worth 5 millions. It's a pretty nice event, it pushes people to actually gather and grind, but aside from the fact that the item is changed, it's pretty much the same Golden Dagger event. So moving on to the second one, this is called the Old Bartali Sailboat event. This event is actually meant to basically provide you with a boat in case you don't already have a Nefarious sailboat to prepare you for the Vel release. So if you don't have a Nefarious sailboat, you might want to consider to do this series of quests and get yourself one of the Bartali sailboats. Although it says that this one cannot be recovered, basically the durability it cannot be recovered, so this is not a permanent boat. It is also slower than the Nefarious sailboat, but for those like me who don't have that Nefarious sailboat, it's actually worth it to do these quests and get a free boat. That's pretty much all in terms of events. So basically we got the Golden Puppy and this event sailboat, and now let's move on into system, which basically it says that they added a new text error responding system into the game. So now if you actually notice any changes or many incorrections in the knowledge window and NPC dialog boxes text, you can actually report that and hopefully it's going to get fixed or changed at the very least. Hopefully this is going to work and we are going to see less errors in the translations, but with that being said, let's move on into game world, NPC and effects changes. In terms of NPCs, the Black Spirit appearance for the stages 1, 2, 3 and 6 has been changed to look more round and friendly. Not sure exactly how much it was changed because I didn't log into the game yet, but I hope it's going to be looking a lot better or somewhat smoother. Anyway, moving on, we have content changes. The View Underwear, Hide Pets, Hide Maid and Place Mode button has been moved to above your address when you are inside your residence, so basically the button was moved. Then after that there is now a chance to gain knowledge upon defeating the following awakened bosses, and I believe it pretty much lists all of them. So Beg, Giath, Rednose and so on. So if you want to do awakened boss scrolls, eventually you're going to get the knowledge for those bosses. Moving on, also on the topic of knowledge, now there is a new system of, actually a point system, that will increase the item drop rates. So basically now for every monster that you have knowledge of, you're going to get a certain amount of points. So 10 points for S grade, 5 points for A+, 2 points for A and so on. And these are all going to accumulate, and once you get a certain amount of these points, you will get an increase in drop rate. So for example, for 1000 points you get 3% increase in drop rate, and so on. It goes all the way up to 8000 points and an increase of 20% in drop rate. So this is actually quite huge, even though it says that it does not apply to the party drop items and the junk trash items. So basically for all of the other rare items like the gems, the rings, the accessories, basically everything else should have an increase in drop rate. Also, the already existing system of having an advantage with higher grade knowledge is pretty much the same, so they didn't change that. So I believe this means that if you have S grade knowledge on a monster, you're still going to get an increase of experience and probably also drop rates, like it used to be in the past. But it is an overall very nice change, and I believe this is going to influence a lot actually how much money you can make per hour on every spot in the game. If this works properly and that 20% increase is actually going to give you a much higher chance to get anything besides the trash items, it should be a noticeable difference. The only problem that I see with this is that older players are going to actually get a lot more money probably than the newer ones, because if you only get 10 points per one S grade knowledge, it means that it's not going to be that easy to get 8,000 of these points, and newer players who don't have knowledge for most of the high level areas, or basically they don't have much knowledge in general, they are going to get a lower drop rate value. Yeah, anyway, moving on, we get into class changes. From here, sorcerers get the same attack power increase for PvE, and the rest seems to be pretty much fixes and small balancing stuff. Doesn't seem to be anything else interesting, so we move into item changes. From here, the first change is the increase in the number of ship repair materials that you can register to the marketplace. So it was increased from 20 to 100. And after that, some small irrelevant stuff, and we get into the finally node level fix. So up until now, people were pretty much debating if nodes actually have any benefit, or if you get any benefit from investing energy into nodes, and now we actually finally see that happening. So if you were not a believer until now you actually have some proof, at least from these patch notes, that investing energy into nodes actually does something. So for each level that you invest, for each level that you have in that specific node, you're going to see an increase in drop rate by 5% for 10% of the monsters you defeat. This is pretty much a weird system, but basically if you have a node level at level 10, it's going to give you a 50% increase in drop rate, but only for 10% of the monsters that you defeat. So for example, if you kill 100 monsters, only 10 of those are going to give you that 50% increase in drop rate. This seems pretty weird, or actually yeah, it seems pretty weird, but in any case, it at least makes node investment worth it. Moving on, we see some changes to the Martini Stone, and more precisely they color coded the icon to tell you basically at what stage of collection it is. So it's going to be yellow if the stone is empty with nothing collected, and it's going to turn blue if it has some samples collected, and then it's going to turn into red when it's basically full. So this makes it at least a little bit easier to see which stones are full and which ones are empty, and yeah, pretty much nothing else changed. I already made the tests for a Martini Stone related video, and it's pretty nice to see this change, because on that video, which should be released maybe today or tomorrow, I was buying about maybe 15 of these stones, and it was quite annoying to have to check which one actually has some samples collected and which ones are empty. The check mark was actually quite useful, I believe, but once you have maybe 20 of these in your inventory, it gets pretty hard to tell which ones are actually empty and which is that one stone that has some samples in it. From Pearl Shop changes, we have the addition of a new Arctic rare box which contains polar bears, and some increase into the interior points that you get from some of the basically from the Frosty Wood furniture set. After that, the appearance of the Centaur pet tier 1, 3 and 4 has been changed to look more natural. Not exactly sure how it looks, but I hope it looks now a little bit better, and we move on into monster changes. From here, the first line is a little bit worrying to me, because I just finished testing Ronaros Forest for this other video that I have to make. So they say that an issue was fixed with the monsters in Ronaros Forest and Givin Razia Temple having abnormally high DP values. So I hope this means, or at least I expect this to mean, that these monsters are going to have way less, or at least a little bit less DP and be somewhat easier to kill. So as a result they should have more experience and probably more drop rate. Well, at least now I have the opportunity to test Rhonaros Forest from before and after this DP patch and see exactly what is the difference. But anyway, moving on, the next change is in the world bosses. Karanda and Kutum will now be attacked properly by summoned creatures, so I suppose just a wizard, witch and tamer pets. More fixes, and we move into quest and knowledge changes. In the knowledge window, detailed hints have been added for the locked knowledge entries, which will appear if you hover your mouse over the knowledge titles. So basically now if you still have question marks or just unknown or locked knowledge, now you actually have some hints to know how to get them. This is actually nice because this pretty much goes with the other knowledge patch, where now you should have an easier time to unlock this knowledge and get more of those points to get a higher drop rate. Moving on into interface changes, from here the first relevant one is that now when you register items to the marketplace that are already sold out, you're going to be automatically registering them at the highest price. This is somewhat helpful for those who accidentally register these items for a lower price or just basically put them at mean price. Moving on, the sound will no longer play during the opening logo animation. That's actually very helpful because I was actually getting annoyed by this every time you open the game, and if your game is already muted in terms of sound, this logo animation is pretty loud, or it was pretty loud. And last but not least, you can now see how much additional item drop rate you get from investing in a node. So overall this week we actually got quite some big influence changes, I would say, because this new knowledge system for drop rate is actually, or it should be actually, very useful to get a lot of more money per hour. And also in terms of the drop rate, we got the fixed or improved node system, where you actually get some benefits from spending a lot of energy to invest in these nodes. So with that I am pretty much done. I hope this video helped you in some way, or maybe it was somewhat entertaining, I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching and I hope to see you guys in the next video.